Hi, folks. Welcome back to Heard It on the Axe, the East Coast premier music talk show. This portion of our show is brought to you by Regal Tip and RegalTip.com for the best in drumsticks. I want to welcome everyone back. Our illustrious panel that we have here, the Doctor, Ross Caff from Back to Back Entertainment. On the phone, we have Chris Canella and Joel Selvin, who Joel is the author of Sammy Hagar's new book. One thing I want to tell everybody about the Sammy Hagar book, it's Sammy's book. It's not Joel's book. So even the people that are writing in on xshow.co asking us some questions, it was Joel's job to be the author. It's Sammy's story. So,
So these are Sammy's thoughts.
These are Sammy's thoughts. It's actually hard for Joel. I mean, Joel's he's joining us right now, and he's taking a lot of time with us, which is fantastic. But it's really hard for him to elaborate on Sammy's thoughts, and Sammy's thoughts aren't his thoughts.
Sammy's thoughts are well spelled out in the book.
Correct, they are.
And as you say, my role was to serve as like the editorial consultant here, and indeed, I understand Sammy's story and saw the narrative in it, and I came to him with the idea that we should do this book. When I went to his manager, Carter said, "Nah, it's a terrible idea. I don't see any upside to it. It's just a big distraction." I say no. So I figured it was all over, but and he ended up hearing from Sammy, and he says, call me directly. And Sammy liked the idea. He wanted to tell his story. It's got a big story. The Van Halen thing, that's 11 years of Sammy's life and certainly the high point of his career.
Correct.
And it sets up a kind of Greek tragedy arc to the story in the biggest sense. And so that the first part is, you see this guy emerging from a real terrible, impoverished, abused background and making his way in the rock world to the point where he's quite successful and then joins Van Halen. So they have the 11 years and then the fall from grace, and then through the Cabo Wabo thing and getting into the tequila business and his own sort of persistence and adherence to an inner self, he emerges whole, restored, and then they have this reunion where they meet on different terms than they had 10 years before. And that spells the sort of like, climactic coda of the thing as Sammy rides off into the sunset, happy and rich, with the girl.
It's true. It's true. Joel,
it's a good story.
It's a really good story, and like I say, the book is great, and it's an easy read. One of the things is, and I wanted to ask you is, was there any parts of it that were because there's parts of it that are shocking to me. I got to be honest with you. And were there any parts when you were hearing the story, or were you that privy? Joel is also a music critic for Sam.
So goofy about UFOs and aliens and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, we've all heard that stuff.
And I do just completely enjoy that, because Sammy's take on this is he believes in everything, right? He believes in God, and he believes in ghosts. He believes in Jesus, and he believes in aliens. And, to me, I'm sort of a professional agnostic, but that makes more sense than picking out any one sort of set of things and going, no, those are the ones,
Yeah, I agree with you there. I definitely agree with you. Was there any other stories in the book, though, that were shocking to you? The Alex part I thought was shocking, and the Alex part kind of bothered me, to be honest with you, a little bit.
What do you mean by that?
Well, and this is just my take once again on it. I think Eddie's problems were kind of a little more chronicled and a little more visual. And if you're in my industry, owning an independent music store, you're kind of behind the scenes and you hear stuff. Where I think Alex did a little bit better job of keeping maybe that private. And I just don't know. I don't know how I feel about that being exposed, but I really thought I was kind of shocked by that. It was nice to know that that he cleaned himself up and he's doing well.
I'd say Alex emerges as a really decent and strong-willed and healthy guy who overcame some problems that would have put other people in the hospital.
Correct. Well, and actually now Ed himself has too. I mean, and Chris, you will attest to that, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Ed is
absolutely.
Ed is doing fantastic, and there were a couple technical things that I found goofy. And Chris, I wanted to ask you this. There's a section in the book, and I'm sure the stuff that I pick out of the book is is the stupid stuff compared to what everyone else is going to pick out of the book. But there's this one thing that just drove me nuts. There was a part toward the end, and obviously everything's falling apart. We've all been in bands that fall apart, and tensions there. And then, of course, you got drug issues, and with these guys, you got money issues. You got a lot of things going on. But there was a part where Eddie had a Fender Telecaster that he just couldn't keep in tune, and supposedly was working on it for multiple days at a time. And to me, the Ed that I know that builds the greatest guitars in the world, I don't see how he could possibly have a problem making a Telecaster stay in tune. Unless. Yeah.
I mean, I could see that. I mean, to be honest, I could see that happening, where he would just get... But he also, just real quick before I elaborate on that, I just want to make one thing really clear. I don't speak anything for the band of Van Halen.
Correct.
I only can speak on the factor that I am the manager of, Eddie Van Halen's gear through Fender. I'm the liaison between Fender and Eddie, so I only speak on the factor of what I've seen and what I deal with as a part of ELVH and FMIC. That's the legalese that I have to say.
Correct.
But when designing guitars with him and working with him, I can see the obsessive side. And if there was something that he couldn't get in tune, he would stay on a guitar for an endless amount of hours until he can get it to work the way he wanted it to. And that's something I love about him. And at the same point, at a certain point, he would then take the guitar and do something bizarre to it to make it work. Something that I wouldn't be able to think of on my own. And when I see that kind of stuff happening, it what really makes me go, gosh, man, this guy is brilliant. He really constantly thinks outside of the box. So in the section where, he couldn't keep a guitar in tune for a few days, I can see him becoming like, I've got to figure this
obsessed.
out.
Yeah, obsessed with this.
It's a problem.
Yeah, just completely obsessed with it. I know you wanted to see if Joel wanted to get Sammy back, right?
Oh, yeah. Joel, feel free to give out Sammy's home number to our audience here if you'd like, if we can get even here. We'll congratulate him on the number one.
Many years later, Sammy and I are like all pals again, and there's many articles down the road. And his wife says, well, Sammy's got a birthday in Cabo, and we're, making a video of people that can't be there to say happy birthday to him. Would you like to come by? So I show up. I've got this piece of cardboard, and I lean into the camera, and I says, well, Sam, I'm so glad we're getting along, and that I'm here to wish you this happy birthday. Be good now. And I pull this cardboard up, and it's got Sammy's home number on it. Lauser, who's been Sammy's drummer since he was like 14 years old, just falls apart laughing and says something I can't repeat over the radio. But
especially now our delay's not working.
In the final analysis, their production crew sort of scrambled the little numbers on the card.
No kidding. Turnabout is fair play, Joel. That's the way I see it.
Joel, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned about Kari, Sammy's wife. Was there anything shocking in the book when you were working with, obviously, them as a family, that she was surprised by?
Yeah, good point.
Kari was somewhat uncomfortable with some of the sort of more frank things and expressed that to me. And, I can sympathize with that. She says, it's the other mothers that she's thinking about, the kids at the PTA. And, I referred her back to Sam on that matter. I mean, this is Sam. Everybody who's known Sam for a long time has known Sam's been this kind of guy who's very forthright and very frank. And he doesn't spare anyone, least of all himself.
Right.
It's why people have embraced this book, I think, to the degree that they have, because they know Sammy's that kind of guy who's going to, just lay it out, no BS, and not self-serving, because Sammy doesn't care what he says about himself any more than he cares about anybody else. If he saw it that way, he says it.
Yeah, and Ross brought that up during one of the breaks. He said, one of the things is he says, Eddie was doing this and Eddie was doing that, but he's also saying I was right there doing it along with him.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
So,
he doesn't pull any punches.
He doesn't. He doesn't save himself.
No, not at all. It's not like he's trying to make himself look fantastic at the expense of other people. I don't think that's the case at all.
No.
And that's the hard part about when you're dealing with, not with what you did with the book by any means, but with the way the press handles it after the fact, and the way that the big machine that goes out and publicizes the book, the only thing that they describe out to the people to get them to buy the book is how horrible it was being a part of the Van Halen camp. And
well, I know you mean in the 2000s.
You got to read it. You got to read the book. But I mean, it's just one of those draw-ins. It's like,
actually,
wow, man, I think that's just four chapters. And I'm not saying you guys did it by any means. I'm just saying the press machine that goes out there and publicizes it always makes it seem, like it's, even with the Rolling Stone article and everything else that came about through it, it was just like, come on, just read the whole thing.
Yeah, it's true. They picked the most flamboyant or the most defaming chapter and talk about that. But there is, and especially in the beginning of the book, in the beginning of his time with Van Halen, there was jubilation in the beginning. He really felt like he was part of a team, and there was there is a very happy part, and really it's like you say, it's a tragedy. I mean, and it sounds like part of the tragedy is the trappings of fame that kind of got to all of them and kind of ripped the band apart a little bit. Do you agree, Joel?
At the core of what went wrong with Van Halen, as Sammy says in the book, it's really hard to pick it apart. He's not entirely certain. Obviously money, obviously ego, obviously a whole set of temperaments that were, convergent on this. And then the death of a key member, the manager, Ed Loeffler.
Yeah.
All the power shifts and things shift overnight. It is a mysterious thing to read about. And I asked, there were points where I went over it with Sammy because I realized in his telling that there were things that were unclear that I couldn't quite parse out. And in the final analysis, I don't think Sammy can either. I'm not sure Eddie could any better from his point of view, or Alex. It is why I asked Sammy to see if Michael Anthony would write an introduction.
And Michael wrote the forward. Can you guys hang out for one more segment? We've got to go to a commercial break. Just a quick segment, another couple minutes. Can you guys hang for a bit?
You sure can.
Certainly.
All right, guys. Stick around, folks. More with Chris and Joel. Heard it on the app.